Okay, good evening. Welcome to this meeting of Development Management Committee. Just go through the preliminaries first, and then we'll get on with the business. Members of the public are entitled to take photographs, film, audio record, and report on all public meetings in accordance with the Openness of Local Government Bodies Regulations 2014. People may not, however, act in any way considered to be disruptive and may be asked to leave. Notice of these rights will be given verbally at the meeting as appropriate. And all the people present, the meeting this evening will be live streamed and live stream meeting to the public. A recording of the public part of the meeting will be available on the council's website within 24 hours of the meeting. Would remote participants use their hands up icon in the Teams to indicate they have a question? Please turn your camera and microphone on when addressing the committee and off when you're not speaking. Would members and officers please remember to switch their microphones on when speaking and off when they have finished speaking. Please speak directly into the microphone. Are there any apologies for attendance tonight?
Apologies of Councillor Ahmed.
Mahmood Hussain is also away.
Okay.
Chair Amjad Ali and Lee Bridgen.
Okay, no more apologies. Minutes of the 19th of December. Okay, to approve those? Agreed. Section 106, Local Government Finance Act 1992. Any declarations? Any disclosures of interest tonight? Either say it now or when the item's called. Any urgent business?
None, Chair.
Well, references from committees and other bodies.
None, Chair.
So we'll go straight onto the agenda proper, and then we'll start with the development management scale of charges, page 11 to 31. Darren, over to you.
Thank you, Chair. So the report in front of you tonight presents the outcome of the full review of the sales fees and charges proposals to be applied from the 1st of April 23 for development control. The proposed charges are listed in full in appendices A and B to the report. Members will be aware that with the high levels of inflation, the costs of the council have been affected, including higher than expected pay awards for staff. So this has led to an increase in the estimated cost of the service in 23-24 of just over £150,000. And the service needs to try to recover those costs through their fees and charges. So paragraphs 9 to 15 of the report outline the main charges that are proposed to be increased for 23-24 for both development control and development control pre-application charges. For members' information, the income that we derive from these charges is in the region of about £900,000 a year. So these paragraphs list the charges where it's proposed to increase charges by significantly more than inflation, although the increase in income yield, if the charges are implemented, will be just 5.8%. So that's well below the current level of inflation. The significant increases have resulted from a review by officers of the actual time taken to provide the specific services, which highlighted that charges were either set far too low or that they haven't been increased for a number of years. So, for example, on pages 16 and 17 of your papers, the charges for Category B, Category C and Category E were last increased in 2019-20, so that's 4 years ago. So we've got a bit of catching up to do here. And similarly, in terms of the development control charges on page 15, the charges for Section 106 agreement, which is proposed to increase by 178% from £36 to £100, again was last increased in 2019-20. So all of the proposed increases relate to non-statutory functions, and it's important to note that the end user can choose to use the service or not to use the service, and they can go to an alternative provider. The estimated cost of the service has increased by 11% for 23-24, as I've already said. And so those additional costs do need to be recovered where possible through income generation. An integrated impact assessment is also attached to Appendix C. And with that, Chair, there are officers in attendance, and between us, if members have any questions, we will endeavour to answer them. Thank you.
Any questions by members? No questions? Happy to approve the scale of charges. Any dissent? Agree to approve them.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And we'll go on to the first planning item on the agenda. That's 187 to 189 Waller Avenue, page 32 to 68. Have we got the applicant's agent, Mark Doohan? Are you in the room? And just to clarify, you're the agent for, I've got you down twice, Rossay Road. Okay, yeah, good. Keeps you busy then, that's one good thing. Okay, Graham. And Tom Shaw here yet? Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay, carry on, Graham.
Thank you, Chair. So consideration of the report is set out across pages 32 to 68 of the agenda, and the proposal seeks planning permission for the redevelopment of the site to provide 342 residential units, including flats, duplexes and houses, alongside 4 non-residential units within the 3 to 13-storey envelope. A press notice was published, a site notice was posted, and direct notification occurred. 3 representations, including one from Councillor Hussain, were received in response, and the points raised therein are covered within both the report and Appendix 3. The update note predominantly related to the waste management contribution, however, also included the requirement for a positively worded clause to ensure the attractiveness and viability of the non-residential uses moving forward. Okay, so this is the first slide, which shows the exact location of the site on the left-hand side, and one of the images that we're going to show of the existing state of the site. And the second shows an aerial view of what the site looked like, as well as a further image just there on the right-hand side. And then finally, 2 more images showing the general frontage of the site as it's seen from Waller Avenue, with Selborne Road there to the south, broadly facing north in those images. Here is the site location plan. So on it's currently orientated with the north on the left-hand side. You've got the non-residential units on the frontage, followed by the residential platted development to the top of the plan, which is the east of the site, and then traditionally arranged dwelling houses at the rear, marked in green, and then the left or southwestern boundary of the site is the Muse houses, which are 3-storey dwellings with a first floor provision of amenity space. And then the access road is there, drawn in from Waller Avenue opposite Selborne Road, finishing at a turning head at the rear of the site. Yeah. Okay. Taking up this is the first floor of the site, and the first, second, third, and fourth are shown here to show how the non-residential units change as they go through. They're the orange units on the right-hand side. Just keep pressing through, please, Clive. So that is the third floor above the mezzanine and the ground floor unit. And then finally, the 4th floor of non-residential accommodation. And then these are taken from the 7th floor plan upwards to the top, which shows the gradual decrease in the the footprint of the blocks as they move forward. Gives you an idea of what the design looks like from that western elevation as the cutbacks start to come in on the residential blocks as they continue to grow. You'll see the roof terraces start to appear, and then culminating in the final floor plan at number 13. Okay, next slide. This shows the basement arrangement, which is where the 176 car parking spaces are provided, or the majority of them, sorry. Each of the residential units surrounding the north and the west have 1 space per unit. You've got the access there taken from under floor B, which is closest to Waller Avenue, and Selborne Road. And this is where the predominant amount of changes that happened in consultation with the health and safety executive around surrounding fire, which is all now sorted and resolved. And all of this has been agreed with the local highways authority as well. Gives you an indicative landscape plan throughout the site showing green areas and planted areas and play areas around the blocks. They're shown in white. And then taking you to the layouts of the dwelling houses at the very rear of the site as they adjacent to the residential units to the north. The ground floor unit on the ground floor on the bottom there with the car parking space, and then the first floor and the second floor. These have rear amenity provision as well as a terrace at first floor level and a Juliet balcony on the front of the units facing southwards. And this is what their elevation would look like looking northwards towards Bodmin Road. And then these are the strip of Muse houses down the western side of the site, adjacent to the BT hub, also access from Waller Avenue. You've got the actual strip, because it's long, shown on the top image, and the one below it slightly. They connect, as you can hopefully see there. And then the first floor is provided beneath, showing the first floor provision of amenity space per residential unit. And then the next slide shows the second floor of each of these, as well as the elevations as they would exist looking to the west of the site and the Undercroft car parking space. Next slide, please, Clive. These are street elevations. So the top one looks from the BT site to the west, looking towards the train line, and the bottom one is from Marsh Road, looking to the west from the train line itself. And the following slide has got one looking to the north. So they see the train line there set down within the landscape. And then the remainder of Waller Avenue there on the left-hand side, looking northwards. These are some precedent images that the applicant provided, and these give a good idea about what the site would look like and where the design intent has come from. You see the perforated metal finish to the front shown there on the top right-hand side, the in-cuts that are featured predominantly in the blocks, but also in the dwelling houses as well. They're in the centre, in the middle, at the bottom, and then the expansive use of glazing throughout, which helps lighten the appearance of the development overall, and some landscaping shown too. And then this is a CGI, which is shown from an internal courtyard. There's the access road. You can see indicated by the car there. Those properties on the left-hand side would be the Muse houses with the first floor amenity space, so over 3 stories. And on the right there, you can see the lower 5 stories of one of the residential blocks, which again, they have the courtyards nestled amongst them. And then this final image shows the view from Selborne Road looking northwards. Shows the mini roundabout, which would be installed, which we'll get talk about in a second. And then the development as it would be addressed from the principal elevation with the commercial space and the new public space at the front with, let's say, seating areas and full landscaping and everything in that regard there too. So the application site is situated within the Category A employment area, which are areas that are ordinarily protected for commercial and industrial development. Though the proposal would give rise to residential development in this location, there would also be a significant uplift in the number of jobs that are generated by the site, rising from 20 to an anticipated maximum of 130, which does not include those that will be created through construction or management of the development. In addition to this inherent benefit, the proposal would also make good use of this transitional site, offering economic enhancement as well as greater sympathy to the residential areas immediately to the north. The mix of housing would be consistent with the local requirements within the Luton local plan, as well as offering a mix of typologies with apartments, duplexes, Muse houses and dwelling houses. It is therefore considered that the principle of the development is acceptable. The existing site has a tired appearance and detracts from the character and appearance of the surrounding area. By contrast, the proposal is a contemporary approach and has been adopted the design of the development throughout, with an emphasis placed upon bold features that are targeted at providing a distinct sense of place. This would contrast significantly with the appearance of the existing site and consider the substantial improvement with significant benefit. It's therefore concluded that the proposals represent a significant improvement to the appearance of the design overall. As well as offering aesthetic benefit, the urban design principles of the development are strong, with public and private spaces clearly considered and a focus placed upon the experience of users, residents and visitors, with fully landscaped areas and a new public space created to enliven Waller Avenue and anchor the development within the locality. The development's also considered to be of an exceptionally high quality design and would significantly enhance the quality of development within the area to the betterment of character, amenity and enjoyment within the locality. The development would also be of an appropriate density, thereby making better use of the application site, and cumulatively comprises a significant opportunity to assist in the regeneration of this part of the borough. Owing to its considered design, development would also settle well within the wider townscape. Fire safety is a significant consideration, and the proposals have been amended twice in response to comments received from the HSE. Further, Bedfordshire Fire and Rescue have not objected to the development, though did provide guidance for subsequent stages beyond planning, such as building control. To reaffirm the significance of this material consideration and to ensure that the development proceeds in full accordance with the requirements of fire safety, a fire safety strategy condition is included within the recommendation. All of the proposed residential units of all typologies would either achieve or exceed the nationally described space standards, as well as offer a good amount of both outlook and light penetration. Every unit of accommodation would also benefit from at least one provision of private amenity space, and these would all be consistent with the guidance provided in Appendix 6 of the local plan. It is noted that the Muse houses would have a provision of approximately 25 square metres per unit. However, this is greater than those offered by the balconies serving the 3-bedroom apartments and would provide an attractive area for future occupiers, affecting approximately 20 of the units overall. The development would also offer fully landscaped communal areas throughout, cumulatively providing an excellent living environment for all future occupiers of the development. In terms of the location of the site, and for all the reasons set out within the report, the proposed uses for the site and the relationship shared with the surrounding properties, no material harm to the amenities of adjoining occupiers have been identified. The proposal offers a policy-compliant provision of on-site parking and also provides for alterations to Selborne Road Junction, with the existing T-junction to be replaced by a mini roundabout. Both the provision of car parking and the alterations to the highway are supported by the submitted transport assessment, the findings of which have been accepted by the local highways authority. It is therefore concluded that the interventions and proposals would result in an acceptable situation for the surrounding highway network. Further, the provision of cycle storage exceeds the council's local requirement, and the travel plan is required by condition, which would promote sustainable modes of transport and see the installation of a live public transport timing board. Parking would also be closely controlled and monitored through our parking management plan, and the applicant will provide funding for parking surveys and controls to be implemented within the development. Highways colleagues are also looking at the Marsh Road traffic lights and the surrounding junctions, and which would exploring the opportunity for further congestion reducing interventions. However, it's accepted at this time that the proposal would not result in material harm to the flow of traffic and could end up resulting in betterment overall. The viability of the scheme has been robustly tested by the council's independent assessor, and though the site is not able to support an on-site provision of affordable housing, the contributions for education, transport and waste management will be provided in full, with the remainder being directed towards off-site affordable housing. A viability mechanism would be included within a corresponding legal agreement to ensure that any additional value that could arise through an improvement to the economics of the site could be secured. On that basis, it's considered that the application makes excellent and efficient use of a poorly designed site that would significantly enhance the character of the area, uplift the number of jobs, and provide a healthy provision and mix of homes. The development is therefore considered to be acceptable, and for those reasons, the recommendation before members is for approval of the application. Thank you very much, Chair.
Graham, you wanted to come in, Stephen?
Yeah. Thank you, Chairman. It's just to clarify one point in the updated report that the planning officer has helpfully highlighted the additional bits in yellow. It refers to in there the inclusion of a requirement for the continued occupancy of the non-resi units. I've spoken to the client about this and he is happy. We can't 100% ever guarantee 100% occupancy. So what I would say is that wording should be the inclusion of a requirement for the continued occupant to encourage the continued occupancy of those units. Thank you, Chair.
Okay.
Any questions by members? Then I'll call, Councillor Kershaw.
Thank you, Chair. I've got a couple of questions. I don't know whether I hear it right or not, that there's 172 car parking spaces will be available. Is that correct?
Through you, Chair, it's 176 total.
Sorry?
176.
176. Okay. Okay. Sorry. My concern is that, how are you going to, the extra traffic? This is a site where the Crowley used to be working for the waste management, and 346 dwellings, it will create a huge amount of traffic on Selborne Road, and Selborne Road is already, there's a parking issue. There's a number of issues in that area. So how we can address that, parking congestion and things like that? Is any strategy will be in place, or will you mind elaborating on that, John?
Through you, Chair, there is actually quite a significant strategy in place, but probably best to hand you to my colleague Chris Godden in this.
Chris from Highways, if you could respond, please, because there is issues on parking and traffic.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. There's a number of methods that have been put in place to try and address the traffic generated. Whilst the number of properties is high, it actually doesn't generate a huge amount of traffic at a particular time. The inclusion of the mini roundabout will help improve the flow of traffic from Selborne Road, and will also help with the, if you like, the existing informal way of traffic leaving Selborne Road. It will formalise it and will help remove delays as part of that process. The Highway Authority is also looking at improvements, currently looking at improvements with the Waller Avenue, Blundell Road traffic signals. They're forecast to do some design in the coming financial year, with implementation of their findings the following year. There's a contribution, Section 106 contribution as part of this development, which will help fund some of that work and will also improve sustainable transport facilities at that junction, as well as improving the throughput of traffic there. So there's a few things in place. With regard to parking controls, we also have a contribution towards changing traffic regulation orders in the area, particularly on the site. That should alleviate concerns. We will be monitoring the situation before we determine exactly what we do in that respect. But we feel there's a number of things that have been put forwards. The other thing is the travel plan, which will be in place for the site, will also encourage occupiers to move to more sustainable methods of transport. So we feel that all these items brought together, the impact on traffic in Waller Avenue in particular will be negligible, and there may be an improvement in traffic in Selborne Road itself. We should be able to free that junction up a little bit. So we feel it's a positive step forward.
Yeah.
Have we thought about that? The children, the families, which schools they are going to go. The existing schools are already oversubscribed. So the 346 families are going to be living in that area. So these are my concerns. So would you mind giving me some sort of feedback on?
Yeah, I think there is a large contribution into education.
There is indeed. Thank you, Chair. Through you. The full amount of requested contribution for education of 1.5 million approximately is agreed and will be paid before the development is fully occupied over stages, again, to be determined through the legal agreement. That amount is as requested by Educational Services from the Council. We've worked with them closely over the last few years. We know that education is particularly in need in the central Luton is particularly acute. Hence why in this particular instance, we're focusing the contributions definitely towards education to address that exact same concern. So it's been at the forefront of our minds throughout the determination process, and including back through pre-application discussions as well, to make sure that that was definitely captured, because we're aware through our colleagues in education that there is a significant need in this area, and this development should go some way to both alleviating that existing pressure and also providing for the new families that would live in this development. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Is Councillor Shaw here, or is he online? I can't see him. No, okay, we'll carry on. Mark Doohan, the agent, please. If you come forward to a microphone and you've got up to 5 minutes to speak.
Thank you.
And I guess you've heard some of the comments or questions by members and officers. If you want to respond on those also, please do so.
Of course. Ladies and gentlemen, Councillor Chair, thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm Mark Doohan from Benchmark Architects, and we've been responsible for designing, master planning the proposals in front of you today. I'm not going to repeat all of the things which the officers have presented today, but I did want to take the opportunity to say, or to actually to praise the process. A development of this scale is a real, it's a mean feat to bring forward something which is able to satisfy and meet kind of policy requirements, and navigating through those processes. And there's no kind of mean feat. And the planning performance agreement process here was a fantastic method, working both with your officers and also regional design panels to try and achieve the highest quality of design, to try to achieve the an above policy allowance for larger family units in the development, and provide the appropriate levels of parking and highways. Was not an easy thing to do on a site like this, and that's why there's a lot of basement level parking. That's really helped. And then we've also tried to make sure that there's a really good mix of accommodation type. So, including the proper houses with their own garages and driveways and gardens, and a good mix of small to large family unit size accommodation. I think has really been is a fantastic positive result of the process. We've found working with your representatives really engaging, and it's a real positive reflection of the council's processes. So we've been really appreciated that. When it comes to contributions for schooling, all of the process and the advice from the council, our client has been happy to accommodate, and thankfully the viability appraisals that we've been through have meant that is something that we can support via this proposal. And I think I'll perhaps leave it there. Really, I was coming this evening knowing that there weren't any speaking objectors to be able to voice any answers to questions if anybody has anything further. So just thank you very much, and appreciate your time.
I'll ask members if they've got any questions to you. Questions to the applicant's agent? No? Okay. Thank you very much. Any comments by members? David Franks.
Yeah, there are a number of issues in my mind about this proposal, but I'm going to concentrate really on only one. I came into this meeting quite prepared to be convinced that I should put my hand up to vote for building 3-bedroom houses with no gardens. I've not been convinced.
I think the applicant did say there were some houses with gardens. I'll let you respond, yeah.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, all of the townhouses at the rear of the site all have gardens. They back onto the gardens of private houses to the rear, and they have front gardens with parking. And then there are mews houses which run to the side of the site, adjacent to the BT plot. And those are mews houses. They are 3 stories high, and they have a very large private terrace and balcony. And of course, they also benefit from the shared landscape courtyards that are between all of the buildings, which far exceed any of the requirements for external amenity space.
Okay, thank you, David. You're still not convinced?
Yeah, thanks very much. I mean, calling them mews houses doesn't actually mean a lot, does it? They're not, for a start, they're not mews houses, because mews houses only have one open, but don't have windows on one wall. Going around the Wester Hyde Park area, well, there are lots and lots of mews houses. Most of them were converted from stables many years ago. So these are not mews houses, and giving them an open balcony of, was it 25 square metres, I think Graham told us, at first floor level does not constitute a garden. And I was prepared to be convinced, but I haven't been convinced, and so I won't be voting for 3-bedroom houses with no gardens.
Okay, thank you. Any further comments? Okay, I think the other issue was around the traffic, and I think that there already is traffic problems in that area. Would this development actually exacerbate those problems or make it worse, or can it be managed? I think that's the question. There being no further comments, then we'll go to the vote. The recommendation is to approve. Bert, can you call it out, please?
Mr. Chair, okay, to the vote. Councillor Agbling,
For. Can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Massoud.
sorry.
My fault.
Councillor Chowdhury,
4.
Councillor Khurshid,
4.
Councillor Massoud, Councillor Taylor.
You missed Councillor Franks out.
Sorry, Councillor Franks. Councillor Franks, yep.
Again,
I'll let you vote then.
Sorry about that.
And me?
Councillor Taylor,
4.
so that's carried.
So that's carried. Planning permission has been granted, subject to the conditions and the other updates. Thank you very much. We'll move on to the next one now, which is item 9, 18 Rothsay Road, page 69 to 92. Susanna, are you with us? Or?
Yes, thank you,
Oh,
Chair.
you're up there in the sky.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair. An update has been sent round to members prior to the meeting in relation to the recommendation, where there was a typo in point 5 of the recommendation to the heads to include the heads of terms within the 106, and also includes the alterations to 3 of the conditions to ensure there is a trigger and or plan attached to said conditions. This application seeks full planning permission for the erection of 36 new apartments, 14 one-bed, 15 two-bed and 7 3-bed units with accessible parking, cycle storage and amenity garden space following demolition of the existing building. Working through the presentation, the first slide shows the existing building within the plot on the site location plan. The application site is located to the northwest side of Rothesay Road between Unity House, 16 Rothesay Road and GT House. The next slide shows the existing frontage of the building. Following that, the next slide shows the proposed ground basement level floor plan, which shows the amenity space, communal areas, cycle storage, and bin and waste provision. To show this more clearly, I've annotated this on the next slide. The final slide shows the elevational details together with a 3D image of the proposal. I'll now move through the assessment of the application. There is a significant requirement for additional housing within the borough. The site is located within a highly sustainable location and also includes the provision of larger units, which is welcomed. The development will follow the building line of the neighbouring properties on either side, with a slight setback from the highway. Variation in depth of the proposal will be achieved through the provision of balconies to serve the units at the frontage of the development. The building will cover the width of the plot with its 6 stories, with its 6th story set in 1 metre from the southwestern and northeastern boundaries and from the front and rear elevations to reduce its prominence. This story will also be distinguished from the principal mass of the development by being finished in grey cladding. Due to the level differences to the land, which rises steadily from the foot of Rothesay Road to the southwest, the development will achieve a sub-level to the northeast, creating an additional story without increasing the overall height of the development. All flats achieve an internal floor area consistent with the national space standards, and all habitable rooms would benefit from appropriate degrees of both light penetration and outlook. Furthermore, the application site provides outside amenity space for residents as well as balcony areas. No representations have been received in response to the statutory consultation process. In addition to In addition to indicating a lack of public objection to the scheme, it is considered that this is indicative of the proposal within its immediate context. The application site is located within a highly sustainable location. Whilst there is no opportunity for provision of on-site parking, it is considered that such provision would in any case be inappropriate and contrary to the Council's aims in order to address the climate change and promote sustainable modes of transport. To that, it is first acknowledged that the site is within comfortable walking distance of both the nearest bus stop and Luton train station. 54 cycle parking spaces are being proposed within the site, as well as one accessible space. The applicants have undertaken a viability appraisal at the site, which has concluded that the development proposal is unable to support the provision of any contributions towards affordable housing, education, and sustainable transport. Given this conclusion, the local authority has requested an independent review of this appraisal. The independent assessment has concluded that this scheme cannot meet all the demands within the local authority's planning policy requirements. Following this, a review mechanism would be required within any Section 106 agreement, given a viability assessment has been undertaken for this development, together with a monitoring fee of £10,000. For the above reasons and reasons set out in depth in the report, the application has been put forward for recommendation of approval. Thank you, Chair.
Any questions by members? No questions. I'll ask Mark Doohan to come forward again, please. You've got up to 5 minutes to speak, and then members may wish to ask you any questions.
Thank you, Chair.
When you're ready to go.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Susanna. Similar to the previous application, I think all the key points have been raised by your officer. We're keen to reinforce that we welcome the inclusion of the condition or the mechanism for reviewing the viability, later into the future. That has been mentioned in the report. Our client's intent is to hold on to the property after development for some time in order to make sure that becomes viable, and so we welcome that opportunity to revisit that being mentioned. And again, this is an application for a smaller version of a prior approval. This site was previously approved for a larger scheme that included the neighbouring sites. That joint venture partner no longer wanted to develop their part of the site, and so we've tried to bring forward a revision to the scheme which improves the internal provision of larger units, 2 and 3 bedrooms, in order that our client can carry on and develop the site and bring forward the 36 apartments. So thank you very much for your time. I'll take any questions if they arise.
Any questions, Councillor Khurshid?
Thank you, Chair. I like the design. Only thing is that I didn't see any provisions being made for the emergency escape, or there are any provisions being made.
We have used advice from fire engineer specialists during the process of the design. They have been reviewed by the Health and Safety Executive through the process of consultation. And it's quite a small footprint building, so there aren't many apartments on each level, and very adequate escape distances within the building, albeit it's a single stair design for the 5 floors above ground.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Thank you, Chair.
The questions? I think it's good to see that the previous application was 50 apartments and this one is down to 36. So a lot of thought has been given to the type of accommodation provided. No questions to the applicant? Thank you very much. Any comments? Councillor Franks.
I recall very clearly at the time the conservation area was being considered and discussed, there were a number of conversations about whether this bottom end of Rothsay Road should be included. The conclusion, pretty well everyone agreed with, was too much of the Victorian stuff had already been replaced, and there wasn't enough left to justify keeping it in. the conservation area. I actually agreed with that decision at the time. There isn't enough of the Victorian architecture left to justify keeping it, although it's sad to see it go. So yeah, I can't see any reason for not approving it.
For that, any further comments? There being no further comments, the recommendation is to approve, and I'll move approval. Is that seconded?
Seconded.
Seconded, Councillor Agby. So we'll go to the vote and include Councillor Franks this time.
Councillor Agby,
For.
Councillor Chowdhury,
For.
Councillor Franks,
For.
Councillor Khurshid,
For.
Councillor Masood,
For.
Councillor Taylor,
For.
Carried, Chair.
And that's carried. The planning permission has been granted, subject to the conditions in the report. That being the extent of the business, I think. Thank you very much for your attendance tonight. See you next time. What's that, 7 o'clock? What's time?